Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and welcome to the 100,000 Subscriber Interviews, a series of short interviews with people who have harnessed my work and seized the power. My next guest is ready, so let's find out more about them. Hello, what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Dave, and I live in southeastern Pennsylvania in the sister city of Reading, England, Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay, welcome, Dave. First question, how did you find my work?
In February of 2020, I had my last visit with the most recent narcissist, and she was so different. I started researching multiple personality disorders. And the last sentence in the book or paragraph on multiple personalities said, "Be aware that narcissists exhibit chameleon and shape-shifting like abilities that may make them seem like they have multiple personalities." And that was my epiphanal moment. And then I began to search on YouTube, finding the usual worthless information until I happened to find you. And that was how it all started.
Okay, thank you. What was the situation that you found yourself in that caused you to start looking? What was happening there?
Well, I had been romantically entangled with a narcissist, and I'll call her the Armageddon narcissist. Retrospectively, I realized I had been with two other narcissistic women and two other narcissistic business partners, and I would suspect that many people have that same experience. But by good fortune, I came upon understanding what I was dealing with in your work. And when I consulted with you, I was about 8 months. Well, I had just recently had that last visit and had the epiphanal moment. And I decided I needed to address the issues in myself that were attracting these people. The year that I spent with her was the best year of my life. The subsequent 2 years leading up until, recently had been probably the worst years of my life.
Yeah. And when you say about it being the worst years of your life, how did it affect you, Dave?
Well, I never stopped creating. I never stopped thriving compared to what you would say most people do. But emotionally, I was really obsessed with trying to find answers about what had happened. And as you know, empaths need closure, and we also need to understand, and we get none of that from your kind. So it really was something I had to plug the hole myself and fill in the void. It was very emotionally difficult. I was probably obsessed with thinking about this individual. The ever-presence was clearly there. And it was affecting my work to some degree in the sense that I no longer cared whether I was, successful in the field. Although I have to say it didn't seem to matter. Luckily for me, I have that built-in mechanism that allows me to thrive under adversity. But mostly emotionally. Physically also, I let myself go quite a bit. I was in phenomenal shape when I was with this person. And it affected me. I didn't really give a crap. And again, I didn't let myself go to the point of, largesse, and obesity and whatever. But I didn't take nearly the standard of care of myself that I normally would.
Sure. Turning to my books now, which of those have you read?
As many as I have gotten my hands on. I think there's at least 8 or 9. I looked on Kindle to see if I could find a list, but this is off the top of my head. Fuel, Manipulated, Pipelines, Black Flags, Red Flags. I may be mixing metaphors here a little bit. The Escape, and several others.
And which of those books, Dave, did you find the most useful and why?
Directly answering that, I forgot to mention Horns and Halos, but directly answering that question, Fuel. I've read Fuel 3 times now.
Okay.
That was the most. Why? Because when I look at the prime aims of the narcissist, I consider Fuel to be the Mac Daddy, if you will, of all prime aims, and the secondary character traits and secondary benefits flow from a good source of fuel. Yes. And it seems to be the driver, the thing that your kind needs to have above and beyond everything else. And it can be created, as I understand it from your work, in multiple different ways that don't even need direct contact. So
that's right, absolutely right. When you clearly have digested the material, which is good to hear. And which product from the Knowledge Vault has helped you the most?
you have several products in the Knowledge Vault that deal with emotional thinking and the addiction of emotional thinking. Those were as spot on as any expertise book I've ever written on any topic. Again, reading my autobiography written by a narcissistic ultra psychopath.
Indeed.
You nailed it. I mean, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Now, we've spoken on numerous occasions, but casting your mind back to that first time that you decided, I will speak to him, what made you decide that you were going to do that?
Curiosity, and the desire for self-improvement. I cheated on you, HG. I had a couple of consultations with some other people, and they were just not satisfied. Yeah, I know. I mean, but they weren't satisfying, and you know, the usual. They were probably good-meaning people, but they were trying to overlay, if you will, the empathic template on healing from the narcissist. Retrospectively, I'm not sure they were actually healed themselves. Functionally, maybe, but you know, this lack of understanding of what had happened to them. At the time, I didn't know it, but there were just holes there. That's like, that doesn't do it for me.
Okay.
And when I saw your work on YouTube, immediately impactful. Again, when you announce yourself as a narcissistic psychopath, that's an attention grabber, and it's also something that only an ultra would do. So
indeed. And how did you feel the first time that we spoke?
Well, that I can tell you directly, because at the time, and still, I'm finishing a book that I started writing right about that time on a different topic. And I told the co-author of that book that I have an interview with a vampire. And she said, "What do you mean?" I explained it, and she said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "It's going to be a blast." I always feel that way speaking with you.
Good. I'm pleased that's the case. So where are you now with regard to the narcissist situation that you spoke about with the Armageddon narcissist, Dave?
I'm 2 years no contact, and I think I can sum it up by what I'm writing in my book about the experience, and where I close the book, writing the end sometimes to help the beginning. I'm about halfway through, but I apologize to all the people that I hurt. I cite my business narcissists, and when it comes to the female narcissists, I said, I've thought about it long and hard, and here's what I have to say, ... and there's a blank space. So I think I'm exactly where I need to be. I recognize what they are, who they are. I recognize their kind much better, and I no longer feel victimized or damaged. I've recovered all the things that I lost, so to speak. So I'm in a good place.
Well, that's an excellent outcome. Very well done.
And thank you for that. Couldn't have done it, no way.
Oh, that's good to know. And what part of my work would you say that's helped you the most, and why?
The consultations, because they allow for the personal details, but everything. There's not one thing that I've gotten from you that hasn't enlightened me. And as I said, I read Fuel 3 times, and like many books that are super impactful in one's life, you put them down, you read them again, and you learn something new. But I'd say just the one-on-one conversations that we've had, where I can point out some specifics, and you can put the NARC playbook over them and say, well, this is why that happened. And I will say to anybody listening that it's remarkable that someone can write your autobiography and write the autobiography of the narcissist you were with without ever having met you, other than digitally. And by digitally, I mean the internet. So
yeah, there we are. Thank you. What would you like to learn more about?
The creature.
Okay, yes. Interesting. I think you're the first person to have raised that in these interviews.
It's a fascination with narcissism. Maybe it's like an AA meeting. You walk into Alcoholics Anonymous, and the rooms are universally filled with tobacco smoke. You're exchanging one addiction for another, and I've become somewhat I'm fascinated by this disorder because it's new, it's different, and it's very different from me. So, but the creature, that's really where I'd like to hear more about.
Okay, well, that's a work in progress, and it will appear, so you will be able to satisfy your thirst for knowledge in that regard. And you just touched on talking about saying how you're a very different individual from obviously the narcissist. Do you identify as an empath? And if you do you know your school and cadre?
I do, and I may again mix metaphors a little bit. I did take your empath detector, and I put my most recent Armageddon narcissist through the narc detector, and I've done I think the weaponized empath, and so what I am by your description is I'm a standard empath with a minority super empath, and I'm a carrier, and you call it geezer, which means old fart in America, but a geyser. So yeah, and then I'm also the paladin, which has its own set of, awareness that I could be vulnerable still. So yes.
Yeah, good. So what do you think of narcissists now, Dave?
I'm fascinated by the disorder. I won't lie to you. The empath in me has some compassion, not enough to get into trouble again, I think. But I look at this and I say, well, these people really didn't have much choice in what they've become because it was probably shaped earlier in their lifetimes. And it's a fascinating, again, looking at developmental disorders from the medical standpoint. But I think that you guys and us, we've been around since we've crawled out of the ocean or God pulled his finger, and we will always be there. So it's pointless to vilify anybody, especially when someone like yourself has helped me so greatly, even though that may not have been the intention. I believe they have, especially the greater and of course the ultra, in positions of power, in positions of drama, in positions of art, the creativity that exists in the high level and ultras, and the success mechanisms, the drive that you people have, and the purity with which you pursue those things, as well as the prime aims, is admirable. So I understand it. I won't say I like it. It would be nice if nice, again, wishful thinking, but nice if the chaos didn't have to ensue in individuals' lives. But some of the greater good that's caused or comes as a result of narcissists in this planet is undeniable. So your place in the world is assured as is ours.
Interesting, thank you. What would you say your favorite aspect of my work is?
Your wicked sense of humor.
Okay, thank you.
And the purity with which you don't. There's no extraneous nonsense. There's no psychobabble. There's no empathic templates. There's just purity. It's like Alien. You watch the movie Alien, and the headless robot says, "I admire its purity." Well, I admire the purity of your work.
Thank you. And finally, Dave, what's your message to the people listening to you now?
Well, if you are an empath, understand you have an addiction, and addictions don't go away. They become controllable and they become less. But I consult your work still fairly frequently. I still look at your YouTube posts. A new book comes, Horns and Halos I missed, so I'm reading it now. It is a lifelong situation that must be controlled as an empath. You are addicted, and once you understand, like many addictions, you are never gone from that addiction, then you will understand you must always come back to the fundamentals which you've outlined. So I'll always be consulting your work, less and less as time goes by, simply because you've been effective, but I'll never stop looking.
Good. Dave from Pennsylvania, thank you very much for joining me today and sharing your observations.
A pleasure, sir, and congratulations.